Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for making time. I'm excited here today to be talking to you about Gwen. Before I get into Gwen specifically and what it is and show you demos, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about um, why we built it and at a high level, what problems it solves. One of the things, just before I get into that, maybe I'll do a quick background on myself. My name is Fawad Butt. I'm the CEO of Penguin AI. Prior to this, I spent some time in venture. Before that, I was the chief data officer at Optum and United Healthcare on the insurance side. And then before that, the same role at Kaiser Permanente. So I've spent a lot of time in healthcare technology, in healthcare processes, in healthcare front and back office, trying to enable deep workflows at these organizations. And I think one of the things that I always found was that while there were these large initiatives that were going on, that were big transformation agendas, whether it's to rebuild the claim system or to rebuild or re-implement an EHR such as Epic, and those things would take a lot of energy and capacity at organizations. Those things were important to do and long-term projects. There were also hundreds of thousands of small use cases that popped up at large organizations. These were not things that were prioritized by IT. These were not things that would get the big budgets, but they were critical processes for the people that were involved in it. And the journey for them to be able to get some sort of a technology solution was always very loopy at best, right? So you'd have to build a business case, find a sponsor, go to a committee, submit your request, and then hope it gets approved. And then somebody gives you an estimate, and then they build it out. And by the time this is all over, you may not even work there. That's, unfortunately, the truth of the matter. So one of the things that we talked about was how do we enable this entire community of builders, people that are closest to the problem, that typically know what the solution looks like, and give them tooling so that they can start to build themselves. And that's really what Gwen is. Gwen is the democratization of building in healthcare. Whether you're trying to build a workflow or an agent or an application, we enable you to start that journey, to try out some ideas and to build an end-to-end product if you so choose, but really give you a starting position to start to put those ideas into code. So that's what we've done with Gwen. We think there's a large market of people that are business analysts or front end people or back office operations leaders. They come in a lot of roles that need to be enabled, and that's what we intend to do with Gwen. Gwen's also not new for me. I mean, it's something that we're announcing today, but this has been an idea that's been back of my head, I would say, from the beginning of when we started Penguin. Kishore will probably tell you that in 2024, he and I would have conversations about how do we enable this community and build a tool set that lets them go and build themselves. And we said at that point, the business user was our persona. The business analyst specifically is who we were targeting. It's become much expansive. Technology's evolved. What we're able to do today is much different than we could do in 2024. So we've come a long way, but this has been an idea that's been percolating for a long time. So instead of me just talking, let me show you a few things. We are launching Gwen today in a full GA format. We had shared it with the world on April 1st. We had a tremendous amount of demand that popped up. We kept it and handed it out to a handful of or selected users to try it out. We got a lot of feedback, and as a result of that, this is the full GA product that we're sharing with the world today. So you can go to, where can you find it? Well, you can go to gwen.penguinai.co, and that's a URL you can go and sign up to. And in this case, once you sign up, you'll see a screen very similar to this. On this screen, you'll have some information about what Gwen is. You'll have some sections up on top. We are in Marketplace. Marketplace is an area where we're pre-publishing apps and featuring apps that and workflows and agents that are that are available to you right out of the box. You don't even have to build these. These are areas and categories that we think there's a lot of demand, and based on our feedback, we found it. So you can come in and you can look at things like everything that's in the featured marketplace area. You can come and look by category: risk adjustment, prior authorization, claims, appeals, front office, HEDIS, billing. I mean, whatever it happens to be, you can come and see. And we're going to continue to add additional featured apps in here. Some cases, these apps will be built by us, and in some cases, it'll be built by you, the community, and we'll be able to publish and share this back so others can use it. So the marketplace is really where you want to start. You want to come in here and see all of the available featured apps that you can come in. You can come into any one of these. For example, chart summarization. You'll get a quick description on what it is. You'll get a sense of what some of the features are. You'll get a sense of what the capabilities are, and then the ability to use it and try it in the studio. We'll come back and try a couple of these in the studio. In fact, let me just show you what happens. You click it off, it creates a chat-like interface. It'll build up the application on the right. You can actually customize it from what we built so that you can make this your own in any format or any way you'd like. So it's going to take a minute or two to get that started. While that's going, I'm going to keep with the overview and show you some of the other areas. So marketplace, this is where you come and you can find all of the apps that are and agents that are pre-built. Skills are really these classic skills that are necessary to get a variety of work done in healthcare. And you can sort them through provider skills, through payer skills, through platform enablement skills. And then there's obviously subcategorization. As you'll see with any one of these are very deep and rich skills. We spent a lot of time with subject matter experts building these capabilities and skills so that they can be broadly useful within healthcare. And they're very specific to healthcare. I mean, obviously, they're not going to have much use outside of that, but they're designed by subject matter experts in healthcare for various purposes. And if you come into any one of these skills, again, you'll obviously get the instruction set that is here, and you'll see that it's pretty detailed. The skills are not classic skills in the sense that they're not just MD files that you can load and use, although they can be. But the reality is that skills have a lot of knowledge that's built into them, meaning that because this is healthcare, these skills need access to specific healthcare data sets, or they may need access to specific endpoints or APIs. So we built a lot of that capability into Gwen so you can connect to your systems and APIs and be able to access that information. So let's keep going. There's a skill section. You should definitely come and take a look at it. We have, I believe, like 90 plus skills at this point. 94 is the count, and we'll keep adding those as we transform and create other areas. There are also data sets that we believe are very, very critical in healthcare that should be available if you're going to build anything, because a lot of the technology that you're building requires these reference data sets. So we put a lot of those in here. You'll see coding guidelines, change coverage policies, fee schedules, master data, and provider related. And then we're adding peer policies, and peer policies are very interesting. They are per pair. For example, you can look at Anthem and you'll see there's lots of different policies that are connected to it. You can download those, you can use those. But Gwen knows all of these assets exist within its ecosystem, so then it can use it as you start to build with it. The last thing that I would share, and I think this is not simple to do, but what we've really done is enabled what we call cognitive services. If you're used to Azure or AWS or some of these cloud vendors, what you'll see is that for certain tasks, they will build repeatable algorithms and workflows that are stitched together for you to be able to do certain things so that you don't have to start from scratch every time. So you can actually leverage pre-built components, and that's what these are. Cognitive services or back-end components that can be leveraged by the various agents that you're building here to enable the execution of work. So for example, here we have a variety of cognitive services listed. Again, you can search them or categorize them based on different metrics and areas. We will, as with skills, will continue and data sets will continue to add additional ones here as we see the demand and as we get more subject matter experts to opine and help us build these out. But for example, you can go into ICD coding, you can check out and see what the skill is. It'll tell you how it works. It'll give you some sense of what the intended use is. It'll give you a sense of what the inputs and outputs are. And then what we're also doing is we're doing some model comparison by using different models that are out in the available in the market that most enterprises use and allow you to sense which ones are best suited for this cognitive service as well. So there's a lot here. I know we've only got 45 minutes and I wanted to show you a lot today, but I'm just very, very excited about what we're building. I think this enables an entire community, both technical and non-technical people, to come and be able to build in healthcare, which has just been a gate that technology has been guarding for a really long time. And now, some of the questions that'll probably come up are, well, what about all the compliance and the regulation and the security and so forth? Well, look, this is built just for healthcare. So all of those things that you typically worry about and need to get implemented, we've made sure that all of those capabilities and security measures and compliance measures and governance measures are all built into Gwen. And you'll see that as you start to play with it. As you're building tools, it'll tell you not to load a PII or PHI if it detects them. It'll try to take care of that. It will allow you to deploy PHI-enabled applications once you go through a process to get your application reviewed and make sure you're not making any mistakes that will leak any sort of proprietary or personal and PHI information. So we'll do that review and then it'll be published and you can actually use it, connect it to your PHI and do whatever you need. We have a couple of versions of Gwen. There's the Gwen free edition, which is what you can all sign up for today. There's a pro edition that gives you access to many more endpoints, and then there's the enterprise edition that allows you to bring some of this and connect to your internal data sources, but then also gives you access to many more cognitive services. And we're launching this, so we'll play around with some of these different bundles based on feedback, and would not be surprised if we start to change some of those around. But we wanted to sort of start with something which enables the individuals and then the professionals and then the enterprises as well. The last thing I'll say before we do a demo is that we want this to be used by not just the IT people, not just by the business people. We actually want this to be used by clinicians. We think there are lots of use cases that clinicians are closest to, whether you're a nurse or a physician or a provider of some sort. I think you have ideas and you've never had the opportunity to be able to build for yourself and try out these ideas. I think this is a very exciting time in history where you can actually now come and do that at Gwen using all the tooling that we've discussed. And then the last thing on this one is that I also hope that patients actually come here and use this tool. We will have a section where we will be publishing a number of applications that are very patient-centric. So imagine you're a patient trying to navigate the healthcare ecosystem. It could be your partner, it could be your parent, it could be someone in your family or somebody loved one, and you see them struggling. And we'll have many things that cater to the patient, and they will include things like explain my bill, or appeal some sort of a code that I was charged for that I did not receive, or to negotiate something with your provider or your insurance company. There are hundreds of use cases around patients themselves that we think are going to be quite useful. So we're going to start building in a second. I just wanted to show you the marketplace really quickly one last time. They're the featured apps that are readily available. Once you start to build apps, your apps will show up here. And then, as I mentioned, we really are trying to enable a community to build and share. And this is what you see in the community today. And we have hundreds more that will be coming through, and then we will vet them. We will see how the usage is, and then make them featured as the adoption continues. So lots of exciting stuff with to look at. I'm hopeful that all of you will get a chance to come and check it out and play with it by yourself. But let's start the building process. Let's build something together really quick. So to build something, you come to Gwen. You can actually click on Open Studio, any one of these places. You click on Open Studio. You can come in and type something in. I was doing something earlier, which was around Horizon Blue policies, and figured out how we build a formulary exception form. We can try something like that. You can build something specific. I was talking to somebody last week at AHIP, and they're like, hey, I want to build a RFP workflow where we bid on a lot of work with states, and then we have to take all of those RFPs and analyze them and then match them with our own programs and then reply to them. So as you can imagine, there are hundreds and hundreds of use cases like that that come to mind, and we can build any of those. So maybe we start with something that's easy. Let's start with a ICD-10 extractor. You could type that in. In this case, it's one of the options. We can just click on it, and you can give it something very simple. You can say, build me an ICD-10 code extractor. And for those of you that are not familiar with ICD codes are used for billing and payments and triage and many other purposes. In this case, we asked it to build it. It's going to come back and ask you some questions. And here it's asking, hey, what are the key pages you want to see? Do you want to see a code extraction results view? Do you want to see a document upload page? And you can select whatever you like. And then it's asking you who are the primary users. In this case, I'm going to say medical coders and billing specialists. What features do you need? Automated extraction? Yes, please. Code confidence scoring? Yes, please. So you can come in and choose a number of these things that are questioned, and then you can continue. And once you continue, it'll analyze this, and it'll essentially give you a recommendation. It says, hey, we're going to build a 4-screen workflow. We'll have an OCR router. We'll make sure all the PII is redacted. We want to make sure that ICD codes are spanned and with confidence, and then we'll build a dashboard, and you can export these out. So it's going to do a lot of this work during the session, and it's going to start to the build out. It'll say, does this sound right? We're going to say, yes, that sounds right. And you'll see down here, there's a plan mode and the build mode. We were in the plan mode when we started, and now we want to go into the build mode. And let's just say, build it. So as I tell it that, it's going to start up a bunch of services. It's going to start to read the instructions that it had decided on in the plan mode, and then it'll start to build these out for you. It'll probably take anywhere 3 to 5 minutes to build out most of these capabilities, depending on how detailed your workflows are or your agents are. It might take up to 10, 15 minutes. This one typically takes 3 to 5 minutes, given some of the requests that we and the clicks that we chose. We have a version of that in the library. So let me just go and pull that one out so you can see what that looks like. So we have a medical coder right here. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna start it, and actually I started a few. Oh, this is the one that we're building. I'm gonna just try it in Studio. It'll take less than 30 seconds or so, and it'll pull it out. As I said, every time you in this mode in the Studio, anytime you launch this, it'll give you the options to customize it. It'll give you the option to make changes and edits and make this your own, whatever changes are necessary. That's why you see the screen right next to it. So while that is loading, I'm going to show you a couple other ones that I had loaded before. Here's a chart summarization, one that we had built and that's published. You can actually come in and say, hey, I want a chart summary. I just uploaded a new replacement PDF, a synthetic file that we had generated. I'm going to ask it to analyze it and see what it comes back with. I'm assuming it's going to take about 10 seconds, 15 seconds for it to extract all of that information and then display it. While it's doing that, we'll just wait and see what it comes back with. And if you have any questions and comments, and if you'd like me to click on something, or if there's something specific you'd like us to build on live, I'm not sure if we have enough time for all of that, but I'd love to take all of that feedback. What we can do is we can build those for you and then send you a link to it. And that way you can try it out by yourself. I think the best way for you to build it, honestly, would be to just log into Gwen and try to do it yourself and see how it operates. Let's check on our formulary. The ICD extraction that is being built still. This was the ICD one that we had launched a few minutes ago. Again, it pops up very quickly. You can go in. I'm going to give it the exact same file, the knee replacement, and ask it to extract ICD codes from it. This is the same file I gave the chart summarization tool to see if it would pull the chart summary, and it seems like it's finished that work as well. Let me show you this while the other one works. In this one, we said, hey, here's a document with a human's medical record and a chart summary. Now pull out a summary and tell us how this patient looks. And what it does is it finds some of the codes, it'll find some of the drugs that are listed here, it'll find the procedures. You can export this out. It's a very simple use case, but as you can imagine, in some cases you'll have 100 page of medical documents and you just don't want to run through that, or you may have hundreds of cases of 100 page medical documentation and you don't want to run through that. So a tool like this could be very, very helpful. Let's go click over to the medical coder and see if it found everything, and it did. Look at this. So we had given it the same knee replacement PDF file that we were using for the chart summarization on the other screen. And what you can see here is that it went through the document, it found a various sets of information, and then it started to code it. And it starts to find different things. It says, hey, I found an ICD-10 code for here's some of the evidence that's related to it. And if you click on any of these things, you can see that it'll take you to the exact evidence that it found in the documentation. So you have true lineage as part of that. And then it found some other things around diabetes 2 and so forth. So again, as you can see, it's really simple to be able to build simple applications and workflows. And as all of us know in healthcare, there are hundreds of thousands of use cases like this where people are doing their jobs by either switching screens or copying things into Excel or doing manual review. And we believe what we built with Gwen could really enable you to build more and to build smartly and to be able to build safely. All the HIPAA, the high trust, the SOC 2, we take care of all of that stuff for you guys. You don't need an IT organization first to be able to help this. If you have an IT organization, they should be using some of these tools as well. But if you're a business analyst or you're in a workflow where you're just not getting the love and care and support and you want to build, I think this is a great place to come and build. I do want to ask Kishore to maybe talk a little bit more about some of the more detailed features. Kishore, I'm going to stop sharing, if you wouldn't mind sharing, and talk people through a little more around skills, data sets, and cognitive services.
Sure. Well, let me share screen. Yeah, is my screen visible?
It is.
Awesome. So yeah, as Fawad was mentioning earlier, team, if you think of it, with all the latest developments in AI, we all are becoming builders in one or the other way. A physician can build, an analyst can build, and an engineer can build much faster than they have ever done before. But especially when you're building within healthcare, you need to have a deep understanding of not just the domain but also the technology. So it means you need both the domain and technology working hand in hand in making sure something is possible. Most of the people are experts in one of those, either in the domain or in the technology, but very few in both of them. And I think that's the place where, or that's the reason why Gwen is here. Because if you are the domain expert, Gwen is helping you in building any of the app that you are thinking about, making it as simple as prompting within the studio so that you are building using your domain knowledge, but you are supported by all the skills and cognitive services that are available, cognitive services and reference data sets that are available within the platform, so that the domain expertise is enabled, or at least the technology expertise is now virtually available to the domain expert, where they can leverage the skills agents and the reference data sets that are there in the backend of Gwen in order to build whatever they want. If you are a technical expert, where you are already aware of all the horizontal capabilities that you need to take care of, that is where the skills and the cognitive services that we have built come in extremely handy here, because those sort of act as your virtual SME or domain expert, so that you are able to build better and in a faster way for some of the healthcare applications. So essentially, bringing expertise closer to our users, who happen to be either of the domain experts or the technology users, is what we are enabling through Gwen. And with Gwen, as Fawad was mentioning earlier, we sort of envision this as as the go-to place for any of the agents or apps that you're building. Because if you think of it, a lot of companies are building the same app, but with adding one level of finer detail that is custom or specific to their organization. And that is where our goal is to sort of build the most comprehensive set of applications that are there within healthcare, be it for a provider, payer, or an RCM company, that are available within this platform, so that users don't have to build from scratch every time, but have a reference application on top of which they can start building. So as Fawad was showing earlier, you can build on top of the HCC retrospective coder or any other app that is out there by clicking on try in studio and then modifying it by building on top of what is available. So essentially, that's the goal of marketplace for us, is to be that go-to place for anything that's related to healthcare applications or healthcare agents, where multiple users don't have to build from scratch, but can build on top of the base that we have built here. Same is the case for data sets or reference data set. There are a lot of reference data sets and also version data sets that users would have to go pick and be fetching every single time. We sort of see this as that go-to place where you don't have to go to multiple other sites in order to fetch the data sets. You can fetch all of them all within Gwen itself. Now, very similar problem. Again, if you think about it, there is a common theme that I'm trying to establish here, is across different organizations, be it payer 1, payer 2, so on till payer 10, or provider 1, provider 2, so on till provider 10. It's very similar problems that we are trying to solve. And that's the core that we have solved, either in the apps or in the cognitive services. When I talk about a cognitive service, think of it as the endpoint which requires all the workflow that is required in order to solve for different use cases in healthcare. Think of prior authorization, think of chart audit, think of CDI, HCC, appeals, and so on. All of them are very similar in terms of what is it that we're trying to build. And so what we have enabled here is that, again, similar to ICD coding, we have done that exercise of which are the best models that work for any given use case. And not just that, we have also tried and understood what is that right pipeline in order to extract the best out of each of the models that are out there. And what we have also figured out during this process is that while models are great, if you are able to give the right guardrails or right rails to the model, so that it does not veer off in different directions, but you are tuning it in order to get the right output by giving the right reference data sets, right workflow, and so on, we are able to get a much better accuracy than leveraging just the model only. And that's the insight with which we have developed the cognitive services, where we have built the right rails / the pipeline in order to achieve any of these given tasks. And again, a very similar problem here, multiple organizations trying to solve the same problem. And At the same time, there is a lot of variety in the data that we are looking at, which potentially not a single organization would be looking at. And again, variety comes through some of the insights that come from our SMEs, whom we have in house, in order to develop the not just these models, but also the right pipeline to develop these models. So essentially, within cognitive service, you would be able to use each of these endpoints. We'll be giving you the fast API endpoints in order to query each of these services, and then use it within your own custom workflow. If all that you are interested in is only fetching the cognitive services or the intelligence part of your app and nothing else. So if you think of it, there is the core intelligence part of the app that is addressed through cognitive services. There is the app that is addressed through the marketplace, skills, and potentially the data sets. The next one that we have also seen organized, or the next question that we have had while we were discussing, or while we were doing the beta, while we were in the beta stage earlier, was that users asked, now that I have this app that is built here, what do I do next? How do I use this app and integrate into my existing workflow? And that's where we are giving the ability for users to download the files that are available here. That's one. And in order to integrate this particular app that you have built into your existing workflow, we are giving what we are calling as Gwen Coworker. Think of it as here is a sort of a coworker that has access to multiple different agents. All of the skills files that we were looking at earlier, all of the reference data sets that we were looking at earlier. And again, this is built for the 249 odd personas that we have identified across payers and providers. And while that is on the while that is on the healthcare specific skills and agents that were built, we have built horizontal software development lifecycle related agent team where each of these agents has its own job to get done. For example, you have some of the AI capability development agents, evaluation agents, golden dataset curation agents, and even within software development cycle, you have a business analyst agent that is informing the solution architect, and so on. Multiple agents for different user personas, both on the healthcare side, as well as in the software development lifecycle. That's one. And again, in this particular case, so let's say if I have downloaded all the files and I'm using them within within Coworker, I can then chat with the files that I have built earlier within the web app, and then integrate into my existing code base, and then go about ask the Coworker here to sort of come back with what is it that we want to do. For example, here I have given a golden data set, and then I'm asking it to build an endpoint that converts medical policies into evaluatable clinical criteria. Once I go about give that information, then it starts thinking, comes back with what is the right prompt in order to get things done. For example, in this case, it said, I have access to the golden data set, or do you have access to a golden data set? It went about asking what exactly are we building? Are we building the AI capability and so on? So essentially, if you think of it, this is that virtual SME that is helping a technology user persona in order to build what needs to be built to achieve the output for a certain set of input. So that's the essentially, again, if I go about answering these, it then starts invoking the multiple agents and then comes back with the right pipeline or the endpoint that we're trying to create in order to solve this problem. So again, for the lack of time here, all that we are trying to do is that, one, enable the non-technical SMEs with the technical capabilities, and the technical experts with the healthcare specific skills and agents in order to get their work done much faster than they were able to before, and all by themselves.
There are lots of questions around data, right? I think, as you would expect, lots of questions around how do we connect this to our enterprise data? How do we connect this to our internal systems so that we can enable the workflows? And so, what I've been sharing is that the Gwen Enterprise Edition is really built for that, right? Which is to allow your enterprises to have Gwen within your firewall, within your ecosystem, so we can connect it to all of your proprietary data sources and systems. And it's very easy for us to do that through Enterprise Edition. So that's typically how you would see it. But if you have any other thoughts, anything else around data you'd like to share, I think there are lots of questions, that were sort of in that category.
We have identified the user personas, and the way in which we are collecting the data sets is by looking at which are the user personas that we can help the most, and those are the data sets that we are prioritizing in collecting, and those are the ones that we are versioning and maintaining over time.
Second question for you. How does Gwen handle pipeline design and execution to support both high volume batch processing and single document use cases?
Yeah. So those are connectors that we have already built into Gwen Coworker. So essentially, there are use cases where you will have to deal with single, you upload a document, you get results. That's one. There is a batch job that you will have to run. There is a software development agent, essentially the developer agent, that takes care of running jobs, or at least building the pipeline in order to run jobs in a batch. But
Awesome.
before that, the business analyst agent helps you in figuring out whether you have to go with a batch job versus a real-time job.
Perfect. I'm going to throw a couple more at you. We handle PHI constantly. How does Gwen treat protected health information, and where does the data live?
Yeah. So essentially, again, depending on the tier that we are in, we sort of take a PHI data versus we don't take a PHI data. The very first thing that we do as soon as data comes in is we sort of check whether there are any PHI elements that are there in the data that is coming in. That's the first check. Now, depending on whether it's an enterprise tier versus a pro or a free tier, again, we strongly discourage not to upload any PHI data if you are on a free or a pro tier. Again, just because of some of the HIPAA constraints that are out there, and in order to make sure all the data is being also treated with the right respect. So essentially, the first thing, we sort of do not take any PHI data if it is free or pro. But if it is enterprise, we can always customize it, or at least the coworker can ensure that it customizes the way in which you are treating the PHI data, because the coworker sort of lives within your enterprise environment.
Awesome. One more question. Talk a little more about governance and visibility on how decisions are being made. How would my director, medical director, or auditor know that these workers or these agents are doing the right things?
Yeah. So again, when we talk about governance and making sure the right user personas are notified, there are scenarios where you need to take care of multiple criteria. One, the audit trails for sure. The second one, how do you make sure the users know why AI has given whatever answer it has given, so that they can sort of justify the answer. So that's the second one. The third one, I think, when we are talking about governance, there are, from a backend perspective, from an AI or an engineering perspective, you also need to take care of, is AI giving you the right or fair answers as well? Because there will always be scenarios where if you do not prompt it the right way, or if you do not steer the AI in the right way, assuming a case where you are not using cognitive service, but you are building an endpoint all by yourself, then there can be scenarios where AI can overfit in certain criteria, using which it can result in some of the bias issues that we hear about in news. So essentially, we have built agents that are taking care of, let's say, some of the bias and fairness issues that are there within your data, that look at your historical data and come back with what are some of the predictions that might be a bias issue either within the model or from the human as well. So essentially, when we look at governance and primarily from a bias and fairness angle, we also look at whether it's a model bias or a human bias associated and so on. So long answer. Yeah.